Episodes 3 and 4 just dropped for Velma. I'm gonna watch them right now. Pretty much said all I really wanted to say about the series with the first two episodes. I think the show's stupid. I don't really take it seriously because it doesn't really take it seriously itself, so no reason for me to do it. But I'm gonna continue watching just because of morbid curiosity and to see if the show will ever pull itself together. As it stands right now, it's really just there for you to point and laugh at, whether it wants you to or not. If there's an overall narrative or anything like that, well, there is. It's the mother, but I mean, the show kind of loses track of that multiple times as well. What I will say is, when it comes to the grand murder of whoever the hell's killing all the high school girls, I would venture to guess it's probably Velma's mother, just to try and get back at Velma. That's my number one suspect because, I mean, we see her technically, so I know she's a main character of sorts. And I think that's my biggest suspect because, I mean, maybe Daphne did it, but everyone else like hasn't really been introduced yet. And if they have, I mean, I haven't really noticed them too much anyways. So we'll see how episodes 3 and 4 continue to build this overall narrative. Speaking personally from my perspective, I find myself watching Norville more than I'm watching the main character, Velma. Just because Velma's currently caught up in a situation where it's like, in this episode, it's just about between her and Daphne and the kiss, and then the back and forth between their friendship and whatnot. And it's like, in that case, when I'm watching that, I'm like, hurry up and resolve it. I don't care. It's maybe just because I'm more interested in like what happened to her mom, because that's like the main draw for this series right now, is that, for me anyways. I understand that there's a fan base for the show that's probably watching just for Velma and Daphne and stuff like that, and don't really care about the mom. I'm on the opposite side. The only reason why I find Norville more entertaining than Velma right now is because Norville's currently focused on finding the mother. You know, that's like the main overall story arc that's happening. And that's the reason why I'm watching, is just to like see what happens there. I'm not really interested in like the comedy of like the fight or anything like that at all. It's weird because this is one of those episodes where I'm not seeing a joke that's making me laugh. Like, the first two episodes had like a moment that I enjoyed, even if it was like out of like my element of things I do enjoy. I'm not really getting that one here. Also, I don't think going limp actually works. I don't know, I never really took it self-defense, but I feel like that doesn't work. Maybe that's part of the show. Maybe it doesn't work. To further emphasize on why I don't care about like the Velma and Daphne relationships, because I mean, it seems like it's just gonna be going back and forth for what I think is gonna be the entire series. I mean, it's not a very long series. I don't know if it's ever gonna get resolved or if it's ever gonna change to something else, like, unless they become girlfriends by the end of this, which I doubt, but who knows, maybe. I don't care about this drama. I really don't. It seems like it's just adding drama just for the sake of like, hey, look, drama, look at me, look at me. I don't want to look at that. Okay, I take it back. There is a part of the show that I do find funny, and it's the part where Norville's wearing the, I don't even know if I'm getting his name right, but like Norville's wearing the cardigan, and then suddenly you got the whole prison to like talk about their feelings. To me, that's funny. I like that. I finally found my joke of the episode. Okay, a couple things to note before the episode ends here. By far the most entertaining part of the show is just Norville and his family. Like, the father scene is actually pretty funny. I'm not caring about the drama between Velma and Daphne in this episode. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, they're both assholes. I don't find myself rooting for either one or like even relating to either one, because they're both like extremes. Neither one of them has anything that's relatable. Which I think even in a show like this, where everything's just a bunch of random rated TVMA hijinks, like, you still have to have some kind of relatability, and like I don't relate to any of these characters, to be honest. But the main reason, I don't even really relate to Norville, to be honest with you, but the main reason why I find him my favorite character is because like he's the one with the most laughs for me. Right now here, where it's like he scheduled a group therapy session with the prisoners and then he forgot about that. That's pretty funny. Like, this is a nice gag. Anything else though, it feels like it's just trying too hard to like put something out there that's maybe funny, you know? Just put out an extreme and see what happens, as opposed to like developing something to make it even more dramatic or more meaningful. I feel like you should be spacing it out more as opposed to just cramming it all into like a 23-minute episode. Which, now that I think about it, this is probably the biggest problem with the show, is that it's focusing on the mother being missing. You know what I mean? because it has that giant narrative that's going to last the entire series, it has to keep putting it into every single other episode. I think that's the biggest problem of this series now that I think about it, because it's like they want to put in the stuff they want to put in, like the Velma and Daphne relationship and stuff like that. But they also have to put in like the thing that's the main overarching narrative, which is Velma's mother. And honestly, I think the writers wish they could get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? I think the show just wished it didn't have to do it that way, because then they could put in more stuff. You know, they're cramming too much because they're trying to like put in something that maybe people will stick the entire series through. Which, I mean, fair enough. I want to see what happens with Velma's mother. That's the main reason for the story, but it's always getting sidetracked by different things, which I think is what the writers really wanted to put in, and this missing mother is secondary, which it shouldn't be, but that's how it feels like with all three of these beginning episodes so far. I'm actually hoping that it doesn't last the entire series. Like, maybe, hopefully it gets found out the fourth series and then they can move on to something else. Either way, like, they're trying to cram so much in here that it's not working. Episode 3 is done and over with. We ended on a cliffhanger of Norville and his family being something. I don't know. It just kind of ended right there. So I guess it's going to be something important. We'll see in episode 4. As for Velma and Daphne, I hope it doesn't become a recurring thing where it's like they're constantly fighting and then they make up at the end of the episode. It's like, you made up already, just shut up. You know what I mean? Do something else that's funny. Actually funny, as opposed to what you've been doing for the past 3 episodes sometimes. It's still kind of interesting for the most part. Not really funny, but at least he's like moving stuff along, even if it isn't related to the main plot at all. Unfortunately, it was one of those episodes where nothing was majorly resolved. Like, there's no shortening of list of suspects, there's no adding a list of suspects. They tried to do this thing where like Norville's mother maybe is related, because they keep showing her like with quick shots of her looking evil, having like a sinister smile and stuff like that anytime something bad happens to Velma, but I don't even know if it's really going to mean anything in the long run. Maybe it will, but I don't know if it's actually going to like tie to the missing mother or any of the murders or anything like that. I feel like they wouldn't like make it that easy. Then again, maybe I'm giving them too much credit considering this series. Anyway, we'll see what happens in episode 4. Okay, halfway through episode 4. Same problem as before, unfortunately. I'm finding myself more interested in whatever Norville's doing, and in this case it's Norville and Daphne, because there's like something going on with like someone throwing some kind of sedimentary rock through her window. I don't even know if sedimentary is the right word, whatever. As opposed to the not hot lessons that Velma's giving. I kind of feel like this is a show that's just really trying to push whatever kind of agenda or goal it wants on its own, and then really just their own characters are secondary, you know what I mean? Like, it just want to teach his values, but it doesn't really want to develop characters for anything, really. Again, it just comes back to what I said about episode 3, where it's just the main story is almost secondary for some reason. Every episode beforehand, like most of the time, it doesn't really connect to the murder or the missing mother or anything important, really. Like, it does, but it really doesn't. It's just like, oh, this is how it connects because of that one small little strand. Any other time, like, the main point of the episode is resolved, it usually doesn't add anything to the main arcing mystery of what's going on. I'm not trying to compare it to the show. Like, I'm not trying to compare it to like the old show where I always wanted to see a mystery. At the same time, though, unfortunately, I always want to see the mystery of each show as opposed to whatever the show wants to actually put into the highlight spot. Good thing is the episode's only halfway finished. I'm only halfway through episode 4, I think. I don't actually know. So there's still like 10-14 minutes left to go. We'll see what happens. I will say this about the premise of the episode, though, now that I think about it. It is interesting. I mean, it's stupid. But I mean, it's so stupid that it's kind of like how I feel about the show. It's like, it's really stupid, but I mean, I kind of want to see where they're going with it just because of how ridiculous it is, like how out there it is. Like the fact that the cops are just not willing to like do anything else except, oh, we're going to get police escorts to the hottest girls. And, you know, who cares if like it kills, quote unquote, the ugly girls or anything like that. And it's like, the show's so stupid. You know what I mean? It's so stupid that you kind of just have to watch to see how stupid it gets. Episode 4 and 3 are done. And unfortunately, both of them suffer from the same thing where it's just like, the side characters are the ones that are solving the overarching mystery. I keep doing that for some reason. I don't know why I'm doing that. but side characters are solving the mystery of the missing mother and the murders of the girls, whereas like whatever the main character Velma is doing barely relates to it at all. In episode four's case, it was about Velma's views on women being sometimes more sexist or even just as sexist as other views that are sexist. And I didn't really find that one interesting because, I mean, one, I think I've seen it before multiple times, and two, I feel like it's done better. Actually, if anything, I think Big Mouth did it just like that. And if anything, Big Mouth probably did it better, which is saying something because I can barely stand Big Mouth as it is. I hate that show. It's funny that I compared the show to Big Mouth, which is probably his main inspiration at this point now that I'm seeing. I think they just want to make Big Mouth. I think they just had an avenue to do it with Velma and stuff like that, and then they're like, oh, well, we have to have something for like the old school fans, so maybe they have a mystery to solve or something like that, and then you can just do all this other stuff. That doesn't really work. You have to focus on one thing. You can either focus on the mystery or whatever you wanted to view, but because you're trying to focus on both, even if one is in the back burner a lot of the time, both suffer, you know what I mean? It's like the whole thing, you can't do two things at once. And even if you can, both of them are sloppy. Like, I can't drink this water and then at this point, what I would like to see is just like, I want this series to be over, and then I want to just like take clips and then mash those together, but only clips of the overarching narrative between the mother missing and the murders that are happening. I mean, it got to the point where even the murders weren't even taken seriously at this point. And I don't mean in the sense that the show doesn't take the murder seriously in terms of comedic effects. That's okay, but like, they're not even murdering people anymore. It's just the threat of a murder. I feel like even that was put in the backseat as well, along with the missing mother and stuff like that. The best parts of the episode, for episode 4, I mean, were Norville and Daphne. They by far the most interesting situations, the most interesting dialogue, the most interesting moments. I don't remember how many episodes, but I think it's like going to be another 4 Thursdays, maybe 5. In terms of who the murderer is, if I had to guess, it still would be Velma's mom. Or maybe Norville's mom. I know she's important somehow. I don't think she's the murderer, but I mean, who knows? Maybe they're just making it obvious. And I think that's it. I don't really have any other murderers because, I mean, unfortunately, I don't really see a line. Granted, I'm not smart, so I mean, if there is a line that can only be seen by the very, very clever, I'm definitely not going to see that line, period. If based off random guess, if it isn't one of those two mothers, then maybe, I don't know, maybe the cops. I mean, they're awful cops, so maybe they're just being awful on purpose so that no one ever figures out what terrible things are happening that they're doing in this series, you know what I mean? I would believe it. Considering everything else that's happened on the show, I would definitely believe it. That was it for episode 4. I'll see you next time for episode 5.